Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about The Craft. This movie came out in 1996 and it is a cult classic, but it was a surprise hit. All around, it earned 55.6 million on a 15 million budget. It was directed by that of Andrew Fleming, but it was produced by that of Douglas Wick. Basically, Douglas wanted to have a movie that showed the teen experience with that of witchcraft. And it dabbles in that. It centers around that of four teenage girls who are like outcasts and a little bit of a misfits, and they dabble with that of witchcraft. And so the movie stars that of Robin Tunney, Fairuza Balk, Neve Campbell herself, and Rachel True. And I remember when this movie came out and I saw the picture, of course, the famous poster of all of them walking in the lightning behind them and stuff like that. I thought, wow, what movie is this? And I wanted to see it because Scream had came out a couple of months after this movie came out, and Neve Campbell was in Scream. And plus, I had watched Party of Five back in the day, so I was like a huge Neve Campbell fan. And so I really wanted to see this. But of course, my family don't really do movies, so I never got to see it. Then I forgot completely all about this movie as I got older. And I've only watched this movie twice. And the first time I watched it was a few years ago. And so, when I watched it, I'm all like, oh, hey, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Charm. Why? Because Charm came out 2 years after this movie, and it was basically influenced by this movie, as well as other, witch shows that was on television. And, the movie, even though it's a cult classic and a surprise hit, critics didn't particularly like it. They had negative reviews and mixed reviews. And I can see some of those mixed reviews. For the most part, I like this movie. I think it's really cool. But every time I watch this movie, I get to the same conclusion. The movie is fine until you get to that third act and then to the ending. It's just things there just don't make no sense to me. It feels a bit rushed, and I wish they would have shown more. I really wanted to see a bigger battle between that of Sarah and the other girls, especially that of Nancy. And so but another problem I have is somewhere in the middle pacing of the movie. The thing that's interesting about this movies is that the four girls, well, actually I should say three, that was friends before they met the new girl, they weren't bad people. See, they've had bad stuff either happen to them or they live in bad situations and stuff. They are outcasts among the school. And because of that, they became friends. Nancy is dirt poor and her stepfather is very abusive. You have Bonnie, who suffers from these really bad burn scars on her back. And then you have that of Rochelle, who experienced racism at the school because she's black. And so all those experiences that we get to see them going through as to why they want to use witchcraft to better their lives, it kind of just gets wedged in the middle and very quickly. It's not spread out throughout the entire movie. It would have been nice if they would have shown those parts in the early beginnings of the movie or all throughout the movie. So you get a better feel why these girls want to do why they want to do. And when I say it's wedged in there, it's wedged in there very, very quickly and a little awkwardly. And then the rest of the movie just follows the way it normally does. And it's just kind of strange and it's just kind of odd. But other than that, it's a perfectly fine movie and stuff. And so, but I wish it would have had more, character development with those characters. And then as for the ending, it's just weird when two of them decide to turn like really like, evil and stuff. And because, they're minions and everything to that of the leader of Nancy. Now I can see Nancy doing what she wanted to do at the end of the movie, but the other two girls, I just can't see that happening and stuff. So it would have been nice throughout the movie to show that, like, because like with Bonnie, you see that she starts to change in her personality, but it's not over the top change personality, like it would be in another movie, say like Mean Girls, when Caddy like has a makeover and all of a sudden becomes like really mean and rude. It would have been nice to see that happen. And then as for Rochelle, it's just kind of, well, we all know why Rochelle is in this movie. She's just there to add diversity. She's literally just the black friend who is just there. And sadly, the actress who plays her, Rachel True, she doesn't get invited to none of the conventions. She put out a statement a few years ago talking about how like the rest of the cast, they go to these conventions and everything, but she's never invited. Like she's rarely ever invited and stuff. And that's really sucks that they exclude her. And not only that, but it was something else. They erased her from like the movie. I can't remember who it was, but it was a streaming platform. And you know how the streaming platform has like, the pictures of what the movie's about or like the main poster. And I believe she said that she has been erased from like that picture and stuff. And that is just terrible and despicable, but that's like white Hollywood for you and stuff. And that's just like, society in general. They always want to exclude the person of color and stuff because they figure, oh, don't nobody want to see them. We have to market it to who it's going to be profitable for. And sadly, that's normally just white people. They go to the movies a whole lot more than most other people. Especially when you look at the demographics at certain movies and they do it by like gender and race. And most movies that like come out that's like say big, not that many people of color go watch. Like Martin Scorsese just came out with some movie, I forget the title, something with the moon. It was about Native Americans and Leonardo DiCaprio's in it, like always. And they did the demographic for it, and Asian people and black people barely watched that movie and stuff. So I get the business side of it, but it's still messed up. You know what I'm saying? Because Rachel has fans, you know what I'm saying? She's been in a lot of stuff since The Craft. So people who are fans of hers are probably gonna watch this movie and are gonna want to see her in that, like, that poster and stuff. And so, like, I remember when this movie came out, like, I knew Neve Campbell was in it, but the other people I really didn't know at that time. And some of them I still kind of don't, but some of them I still kind of do. Like, at that time, I had no idea who Robin. No, I still don't know who Robin is. I haven't seen her in nothing since. She's been in stuff. I just haven't seen her in nothing. Fairuza, I believe her name is. Like, I've heard her voice before and stuff, and I just recently saw her in the Worst Witch movie, but I haven't finished that movie, and I had no idea it's her. But other than that, I haven't seen her in nothing. And of course, that's Neve Campbell. Scream and everything. But I haven't seen Neve in anything since Scream. Well, all the Scream movies and stuff. I remember her from Party of Five, and I've seen her in Wild Things, and I want to say something else. Oh, what's that thing called? Are You Afraid of the Dark? But other than that, nothing. And Rachel True, I saw her in Half Baked. She was in Half and Half, and Lord, why did she go to the sequel of Half Baked? Like, why? why? And Scores, not Scores, I'm saying his name. And of course, Skeet Ulrich, I saw him in Scream. I saw him in Unforgettable. I saw him in Riverdale. And the guy who plays like his best friend, I saw him in Clueless. And as for the doctor, I saw her in Desperate Housewives. But other than that, everybody else I really don't know of. Now, there was supposed to be a direct-to-DVD sequel back in the day, but that never happened. And in fact, also before I go on to that, it's crazy. Angelina Jolie, Scarlett Johansson, and Alicia Silverstone were supposed to be in this movie but lost out to like the other cast. That's insane. And oh, where's this part I saw at one point? Um, so like they wanted to have like the a realistic view on like Wiccan and stuff, and so like they actually hired a consultant and stuff because if you're dealing in something like this, you're gonna want to have somebody who is like familiar with it, so that it could be faithful to like people who dabble and study like witchcraft and paganism and stuff. Because witchcraft has been studied since probably like the beginning of time. Well, except for probably like cave people. But like ever since like, the Romans and the Greeks and like all of them and the Etruscans and stuff, people have been like studying witchcraft and all around like, the world. And of course, there was those Salem witch trials in like America and like, so witchcraft has always been looked at as like bad. But then there's been like, and also like in movies and stuff, and a lot of people who study in Wiccan, they don't like seeing witchcraft portrayed badly. But then there's been a lot of TV shows and movies that have portrayed it very positively. So I do wonder how people judge this movie when they get to like the third act and three of the girls turn evil and trying to harm like, the other girl and stuff. So it was supposed to have a direct to DVD sequel, but that never happened. And instead, about 20, 30 years later, they finally came out with a sequel, Craft, The Legacy. And that was direct to streaming because it was during like I think the pandemic at that time. I have not seen that movie yet. I have no idea if it's good or if it's bad. And I was wondering for the longest time, why was it called Legacy if there are like, new cast members and everything? Well, it turns out that Nancy is the mother of one of the girls in the movie. And so that's, of course, is like, the legacy and everything. Now, there hasn't been no direct follow-up to that yet. And I don't know how that is. Like, a lot of people, when that came out, a lot of people didn't seem to like it as, like, the original. And so, like, when it comes to that, the original, I am so glad it was made in the 90s because it is so practical. There is CGI, yes, but it's very few in the movie, and the CGI still holds up to today. Some parts do. Some parts look a little wishy-washy and everything. But like there's tons of practicality in there. Like when the girls hover up in the air, they're on wires. You can tell that they're on wires and stuff. When they fly in that dream sequence, yeah, that looks fake and everything. But other than that, see, this movie, when it deals in witchcraft, it's not like the Hollywood type where you always see like these sparkly lights or lightning effects or like smoke and stuff like that. It's more like, chanting and things moving around and like, stuff like that. And so like when it comes to practical stuff, like when the new girl, what's new girl's name? New girl. Um, when Sarah goes back to her house, there are animals everywhere. There are lizards, there are snakes, there are bugs. There's like all kind of creatures there, you know what I'm saying? And they're all real, even like the bugs. And you can feel that realism through the screen. Now, if it was made, it would be all CGI. And, I'm so sick and tired of CGI. CGI is not always the best thing. CGI just looks way too fake and everything. So I do love the practicality in, like, this movie. Because it just helps give it that extra oomph. You know what I'm saying? But I still wish that third act could have been bigger and explosive than like what it was, because it's a little confusing at times. And one of the special effects, like when they're fighting on the wall, yeah, you can tell that they're just laying on the floor and the camera just turned a different way. You can just tell. So their budget wasn't that big, for them to be on wires and up against the wall or a crane or something like that. So yeah. And so this movie is about a girl named Sarah, played by Robin, and she moves to like a new home and everything, and suddenly she's like creeped out by this man prophesizing about stuff and has like a snake, and he shows up later on in the movie. And so basically she's the new girl at school, and it does have kind of those cliche type things, you know what I'm saying, where like, she's the new girl, so she kind of has this kind of like I don't care kind of vibe. She's kind of like the cool but not cool girl, you know what I'm saying? And everybody kind of like wants to be her but not really, and some people it's the new girl like cliche type stuff. And so like her mother died when she was at childbirth, when she was giving birth to like Sarah. And so like while at school, she meets a bunch of new people. She meets like, this guy who acts like he's into her named Chris, and Chris is just like a typical jerk guy. Basically, he just wants to get with like a girl, and then he uses them, and then he leaves them after that. And then if he likes them a little too much, he gets like a little too handsy and stuff. And she meets these group of like girls. And so like the girls, we really don't know nothing about them whatsoever. But like when it comes to that of like Nancy, Bonnie, and Rochelle, they are practicing in witchcraft. But the problem is they need a fourth for every element of like, the earth and stuff. And so their powers just aren't strong enough, and they aren't able to conjure up anything because they need a fourth, because they worship this one like witch deity. I forget the name of that person. I think it's Manor or something like that. An earth like deity and stuff. And so they need like a fourth. And so at some point, Bonnie realizes that, hey, this new girl could be our fourth. There's something about her and everything. And so, they befriend her and everything. Well, at first it's kind of hard because Nancy is just one of those type of people who just hates everybody. So she's mean and she's rude and all this other crap. Well, anyway, at some point they do befriend each other. Especially after like Chris hangs out with that of Sarah and lies to everybody saying he slept with her. But he never did. And it turns out he did the same thing to that of Nancy. And she tried to warn him and everything. But, Sarah would not listen. So it turns out that when they're hanging out, they're at a witch store. And they believe in the stealing method, which, Sarah's not all about, but she pays for the book. And so they start studying witchcraft, and they start like honing like their powers and everything. And Bonnie was right. She was the fourth they needed and everything. And so the girls just go out throughout the entire movie, like practicing little spells, like, here and there, chanting and doing like this thing where they're like, I forget where they go. I think they go, was it to a beach or something? No, that's before that. They go somewhere and like, they're like talking about like all their desires that they want. And, they put their blood in like, a cup, and then they give each other like a little peck or kiss and everything. And like, they talk about their desires of what they want. And then next thing you know, all those things actually start to happen and everything. And it happens like one by one. So like Sarah, she wanted Chris to like love her, even though he did her wrong. Bonnie wants to be beautiful, which, Bonnie, that's the thing about Bonnie. It's like, she is a beautiful girl and everything. It's just she has these like, back scars from like the burn. But you can't see the scars until like, she pulls down her shirt or something like that. or take it off or something like that. So you never see that. So I would have liked it better if she was more like the awkward nerdy type, or had scars on like her face or something, you know? That would have been a little bit more. It's kind of like, oh, okay, this is why she wants to get rid of them. But you know, her scars do give her pain. And so her scars like go away. Then like you have Rochelle, who these group of white girls treat her so nasty and call her close to the N word and everything. And next thing you know, like they on one the mean girl, her hair starts to fall out. And as for that of like Nancy, well, she lives in the poor like home, abusive like stepfather. He dies of a heart attack. And it turns out that he left them a lot of money and they move into like a much nicer apartment, and she's now rich and everything. And her mom is like ecstatic. So they're getting everything that they want. However, there's one thing that's kind of odd about the movie is like, okay, the two girls start to like Sarah a lot, which makes Nancy a little jealous. And so you think Nancy's gonna do something really bad then and there, but it takes her a while. Well, she storms off, and Rochelle's all like, you know, I guess her like, you know, wish didn't come true. She didn't want to be white trash no more. But I told her that's what you are. You're white. You can't help that. And I'm just kind of like, okay, white trash is not like a racial slur, but it's still a slur. But it's just kind of weird that she would call her that after, you know, she's talking about how those girls be racist to her. Like, what the world? I don't know why they wrote that in the movie. So when it comes to Sarah, it's only her spell that somewhat backfires. See, love is the most powerful thing in the world, as does every TV show and movie that deals with magical stuff ever says. So, of course, Chris becomes obsessed with her and will not leave her alone. It's getting to the point of like frustration with her. But then he wants to start making out and doing stuff with her, which she does not want to do. And to where when she trips and falls, he literally gets on top of her and tries to like do stuff to her, but she's able to fight him off. Well, she tells the girls, and Nancy, by this time, Nancy has become very powerful. See, they went out to the beach, and because Nancy saw a book that's more powerful than anything they could ever do before. So they went out to the beach to perform the spell, and Nancy got endowed with all this like deity type power. So she's like super uber powerful to the point where it's so disturbing, because when they wake up on the beach, there are all these like large sharks and like other things dead on like the beach sand and everything. And so because of that, she's so powerful, she feels like, okay, you mess with me, I'll do whatever I feel like to. So she's becoming corrupt with that of the power, which is something you always saw in Once Upon a Time, like power corrupts. And so like, after hearing what Chris tried to do, she wants to get revenge, but Sarah doesn't want her to, but Nancy goes to this party that he's having. And so like, you think she's gonna do something terrible to him, but she makes herself look like that of Sarah with a glamour spell. And so like, and she starts making out with him, only for Sarah to find out and be disgusted by that. And it's just kind of like, oh, I thought she was going to get revenge on him. But it seems like she still has a little bit of feelings for him and everything. And he gets mad and talking about, you know, how he doesn't want her because he wants like Sarah. And of course, this pisses off Nancy even more, to where she lugs him through the window and he dies. And so Sarah is at the point where she's just kind of like, you know, Nancy's getting a little too into this. Nancy's starting to come to corrupt with the power, so she tries to bind their powers, but it doesn't work. She's just not that powerful yet. And like, you know, then we get that big climatic thing in the third like scene. The girls start to like haunt her dreams and everything else, and Nancy instructs all of them to go there to handle that of Sarah. Bonnie and that Rochelle claim they just there to scare her, but Nancy has other things in mind. When she goes back to her home and there's like all these snakes and creatures and stuff, you know, she gets a call and Nancy tells her turn on the TV that her parents flew back home thinking that Sarah had ran away, and then there was a plane crash. And so, like, the girls, they just bust through the house, and, like, Sarah's, like, all scared. But after talking to that lady at the, like, witch store and stuff, Sarah knows that she's gonna have to concentrate, like, as hard as she can because, Nancy is so powerful. So one of the things she has to do is she has to get rid of Nancy minions. And this is what I was saying before that was weird with the behavior of like that of Rochelle and that of Bonnie. Because it's kind of like they were never mean in the movie, especially Rochelle. Now, not Nancy, but Bonnie becomes a little like stuck up once she becomes like hot and everything. But that's about it. So it would have been nice to see more of like an attitude shift with them. So when they go to see her or get her or whatever, she does a glamour spell and makes them look hideous. So they run out the house. So those two are now eliminated. And it's just that of Nancy and that of Bonnie. Not Bonnie, Nancy and Sarah. Sarah is trying to do her best to bind like, Nancy's powers and do some chanting and stuff like that. But then basically, like I said before, Nancy's just too powerful, but psychologically she gets psyched out. And you think it's about the end with her talking about, oh, I just wanted to have some fun and play. I wasn't going to hurt you. I want to leave now. But Bonnie, I can't get the names messed up, but Sarah wants to like punish her a little bit. And this is when we see the climactic thing of like Nancy leaping in the air and knocking like Sarah to the wall with a big giant knife trying to kill her and everything. And it's a really cool like visual effect, but you can tell that they're just laying on the ground and the camera's turned the other way. Well, Sarah is more powerful than she looks, and she's able to overpower that of Nancy. And so she overpowers her so much that she drives Nancy crazy, and Nancy at the end of the movie is locked up in a mental ward. After that, Sarah pretty much just binds all their powers and they no longer have like magic and stuff. And so then we get to this weird ending where it turns out that the parents are alive. It was just a glamour spell and everything, which I was just kind of like, they should have kept that in there with them being dead. It would have been more dramatic and stuff. But in a way, they're alive, and Sarah's like at her house, and then Bonnie and Rochelle show up, and they're trying to be like all nice and being all like, we never wanted to hurt you and nothing like that. But we're just wondering, you got any powers still? Because we don't. And so they're there for selfish reasons and stuff. And so they don't think that Sarah has any powers left, but she actually does. And it was just almost kind of like a small, weak ending. Like I was expecting a whole lot more. Like it shows that Bonnie and Rochelle truly are like terrible people, which is something you don't get throughout the entire movie. And that's what I'm saying. Like the characters are written kind of weird because Bonnie and Rochelle was actually really nice, but then it's like they turn evil at the end, then snobbish at the end. And that's just so odd and unfitting of their character. But of course, Nancy, you expect that because she's just kind of like the really, really awkward outcast girl who just hates everybody and stuff. And, I just wish those characters would have been written a little bit stronger and stuff. That wasn't that spooky. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.